In an age where the mind is assaulted by endless streams of information, where the noise of the world rarely pauses long enough for silence to breathe, the art of meditation has never been more vital. Our thoughts scatter in every direction, pulled by pressures, worries, and distractions that rob us of clarity. Yet beneath this chaos lies a truth. The human spirit was never designed to live in perpetual turbulence. We were created with the capacity for peace, and meditation is the doorway to reclaim it. Meditation is not an empty ritual, nor is it escapism. It is the intentional act of directing the heart and mind toward higher realities. It is the practice of anchoring the soul, aligning our inner world with truths that transcend the fleeting noise of life. In stillness, we discover strength. In reflection, we uncover wisdom. In calmness, we find the courage to live purposefully. The power of meditation is not merely in soothing temporary stress, but in cultivating a deeper calm that endures. It is the soil from which discernment grows, the lens that sharpens vision, and the foundation upon which an unshakable life is built. The restless human mind is one of the greatest challenges of our age. It rarely sits still, always racing from one thought to another, chasing anxieties, replaying old wounds, or projecting fears into the future. We live in a world that thrives on distraction. From the moment we wake up, we are bombarded with messages, notifications, and demands for our attention. The human mind, already inclined to wander, becomes a battlefield of noise where peace is hard to find. Yet, if we look closely, the mind was never meant to operate in a state of constant unrest. A restless mind drains the body of strength, clouds judgment, and blurs the vision needed to live with purpose. Many people mistake activity for productivity or noise for significance, when in truth, constant mental motion often hides a lack of direction. The mind that cannot rest cannot see clearly, and the person who cannot see clearly stumbles through life without steady footing. The effects of restlessness are far-reaching. It produces anxiety that gnaws at the heart, fear that paralyzes decisions, and exhaustion that weakens resilience. It disturbs sleep, undermines relationships, and leaves a person feeling empty even after achieving outward success. The restless mind is like a storm-tossed sea, where waves crash without rhythm or order, never allowing the waters to be still enough to reflect light. That storm not only consumes inner peace, but spills over into every interaction, affecting families, workplaces, and communities. But if the restless mind is so destructive, we must ask, what is the antidote? History and wisdom agree that the path to conquering restlessness is found not in more activity, but in stillness. Meditation provides a way of interrupting the endless cycle of noise by creating sacred space for calm. When the mind learns to quiet itself, it begins to find its natural rhythm again. Restlessness thrives on unchecked thought patterns, but when the mind is brought into focus, peace begins to emerge. It is as if the storm gradually calms and the waters grow still enough to mirror clarity. The first step is recognizing restlessness for what it is. Many people accept it as normal, believing that a racing mind is simply part of modern living. But just because it is common does not mean it is healthy. The restless mind is not a badge of importance, but a symptom of imbalance. By naming it, by acknowledging its cost, one can begin to seek freedom from it. Meditation is not about shutting the mind off, but about training it to center on what is enduring, rather than chasing every fleeting impulse. The human mind, once quieted, becomes a powerful instrument. In calmness, it can discern what truly matters, separate truth from lies, and rest in assurance rather than anxiety. The restless mind sees obstacles everywhere. The calm mind sees possibilities. The restless mind is consumed by fear. The calm mind is guided by clarity. The restless mind lives in reaction. The calm mind lives with intention. And so the journey toward peace begins with addressing this restlessness, learning to be still, and allowing meditation to reclaim the mind for what it was always meant to be, an ally, not an enemy. Meditation is often misunderstood as an exercise in emptiness or detachment, but in reality, it is far deeper. It is not the abandonment of thought, but the redirection of thought toward higher truth. At its core, meditation is a divine invitation, an open door to align the mind with what is eternal rather than what is fleeting. Life is filled with noise, and that noise often drowns out the whispers of wisdom and the guidance that can only be discerned in stillness. Meditation is not an escape from reality, but a way of stepping into reality with clearer vision. It allows the heart to become sensitive to truths that cannot be heard in the chaos of daily living. This invitation is sacred because it acknowledges that the human mind, left to itself, gravitates toward fear, doubt, and distraction. But when directed with purpose, the mind can be harnessed as a vessel for transformation. In meditation, one creates space where divine truth can imprint itself upon the soul. This is not about repeating empty words or chasing abstract calmness, but about anchoring the heart to what is unchanging. Just as a compass always points north, meditation reorients the inner compass of the human spirit toward the source of wisdom, strength, and peace. The beauty of meditation is that it bridges the gap between what we know in theory and how we live in practice. Many people are aware of timeless truths, yet they remain distant because they have never been absorbed deeply enough to shape thought and action. Meditation closes this gap by moving truth from the surface of the mind into the depths of the heart. In those moments of reflection, the mind learns not just to know, but to internalize, to let truth settle into the soul until it becomes part of one's identity. Without meditation, knowledge remains shallow. With meditation, knowledge becomes transformation. This divine invitation also reveals something humbling. Peace is not something we manufacture on our own. True calmness flows from alignment with a source greater than ourselves. Left alone, the human spirit is restless and prone to wander. But when invited into meditation, the soul begins to draw from a well that does not run dry. It is here that burdens are exchanged for clarity, and confusion gives way to understanding. This is why meditation has been a universal practice across centuries and cultures. It taps into the eternal longing of the human spirit to find connection with something beyond the self. To embrace meditation as a divine invitation is to accept that we are not meant to carry life's weight alone. In the quiet, we are reminded that we are guided, strengthened, and sustained by realities unseen. When the heart bows to that invitation, restlessness begins to dissolve, replaced by a calm assurance that cannot be shaken by circumstances. Meditation, then, becomes more than a practice. It becomes a way of life, a continual response to the invitation to live not in the chaos of the moment, but in the stillness of the eternal. The discipline of stillness is one of the most countercultural practices in our time. The modern world equates movement with progress and noise with significance, yet stillness often reveals more than activity ever could. Stillness is not simply the absence of motion. It is the intentional practice of creating space where the heart and mind can breathe. It requires discipline because the human tendency is to fill silence with distraction, to rush ahead rather than pause, and to equate busyness with purpose. Yet true purpose often emerges only when we are willing to be still long enough to hear it. Stillness is uncomfortable for many because it confronts what lies beneath the surface. When the noise of the outside world is removed, the noise within becomes more apparent, but also one we give the world. For when we learn to rest in stillness, we become vessels of calm in a restless age. We carry within us a peace that is not shaken by circumstances, and that peace flows outward, reminding others that stillness is not weakness, but power. The kind of power that reshapes lives from the inside out. Meditation without substance quickly becomes shallow, a fleeting attempt at quieting the mind without nourishing the heart. What gives meditation its true depth and power is the anchoring of our thoughts on eternal wisdom. Reflection upon sacred truths provides the framework that shapes the mind, molds the character, and transforms the spirit. To meditate on timeless words is to allow them to penetrate beneath the surface of mere knowledge and seep into the very fabric of daily living. The difference between fleeting calmness and lasting peace lies in the foundation upon which meditation is built. When the mind turns inward without guidance, it often circles the same worries or becomes lost in empty imagination. But when meditation is grounded in enduring truth, it becomes a force for clarity, conviction, and change. This kind of meditation does not demand emptying the mind, but filling it with what is life-giving. Reflection on wisdom allows the soul to recalibrate. Just as a musician tunes an instrument before playing, so the human heart must be tuned by principles that do not waver with time or circumstance. When these truths are turned over in thought, repeated, and internalized, they begin to shape responses, attitudes, and even desires. Instead of reacting impulsively, the mind begins to respond with discernment born out of reflection. Meditation on eternal words also strengthens resilience in the face of life's storms. When difficulties arise, people often scramble for solutions or collapse under pressure because their inner reserves are empty. But the one who has meditated deeply carries within a storehouse of wisdom ready to be drawn upon in the moment of need. Reflection transforms abstract concepts into living convictions, and those convictions sustain when everything else shakes. In the silence of meditation, truths become so ingrained that they rise naturally when challenges appear, offering guidance and comfort without frantic searching. The transformative effect of reflection is not limited to the individual. As truth is meditated upon and absorbed, it overflows into relationships, work, and community. The person who has taken time to reflect on patience becomes more patient with others. The one who meditates on compassion begins to see people not as obstacles, but as souls worthy of kindness. The one who meditates on justice is less easily swayed by corruption or compromise. Meditation is not just about finding inner calm, but about producing fruit that blesses the lives of others. Without reflection, meditation can become self-centered, but with reflection, it becomes an act of alignment with something greater than oneself. It brings light to the inner chambers of thought, reshaping them so that the outer life reflects peace, strength, and integrity. In this way, meditation becomes more than a practice. It becomes a way of carrying eternal wisdom into the ordinary rhythms of life. Every decision, every conversation, every challenge can be influenced by the truth stored up through meditation, making calmness not a momentary pause, but a continual posture of strength and grace. Rewiring the inner landscape begins with recognizing that the mind is not a fixed entity, but a dynamic instrument, constantly shaped by what we feed it and how we train it. Every thought leaves an imprint, creating patterns that eventually form habits, and those habits determine the course of life. Many people live enslaved to patterns of worry, fear, or negativity, without realizing that these are not unchangeable conditions, but results of repeated mental focus. Meditation offers the opportunity to break these cycles by replacing destructive thought patterns with life-giving ones. It is both a spiritual discipline and a neurological process, retraining the pathways of the brain to favor calmness, clarity, and peace rather than chaos. When one meditates consistently, the mind begins to shift. What once felt natural, reacting with stress, clinging to fear, or spiraling into anxiety, gradually loses its grip. In its place emerges a new rhythm where thoughts are filtered and measured rather than uncontrolled. Neuroscientists confirm what wisdom traditions have long proclaimed: meditation changes the brain. It strengthens areas responsible for focus and emotional regulation while quieting the parts that amplify fear and reactivity. But beyond the science, meditation rewires the soul, helping us to view ourselves, others, and circumstances through a clearer lens. This transformation is not immediate. It is the fruit of persistence. Just as exercise strengthens muscles slowly, meditation strengthens the mind one moment of focus at a time. Each time the mind is brought back from wandering, it is trained in discipline. Each time truth is reflected upon instead of distraction, it creates a deeper groove of stability. Over time, these grooves become highways, making peace the default response rather than panic. The landscape of the mind is reshaped from wilderness into cultivated ground, where fruitful thoughts grow rather than weeds of worry. Rewiring the inner world through meditation also expands inner capacity. The restless, untamed mind tires easily, overwhelmed by challenges that demand endurance. But the rewired mind grows resilient, able to hold steady under pressure. Calmness becomes a reservoir of strength, fueling patience in relationships, courage in trials, and focus in responsibilities. The storms of life may still rage, but the inner environment remains steady, like a tree whose roots go deep enough to withstand fierce winds. Perhaps the most profound change is the way meditation reshapes identity. People often define themselves by their fears, failures, or flaws, but meditation allows truth to overwrite those false scripts. By reflecting on what is eternal and unchanging, a person learns to see themselves not as a product of chaos, but as one anchored in peace. The inner dialogue shifts from self-doubt to assurance, from confusion to clarity, from weakness to quiet strength. To rewire the mind through meditation is to reclaim authority over one's inner life. It is the act of refusing to be at the mercy of old patterns and choosing instead to cultivate new ones that lead to life. Calmness and wholeness. It is not merely change at the surface, but transformation at the roots, ensuring that what flows outward is stability, peace, and purpose. Peace is often mistaken for passivity, as though to be calm is to lack strength or resolve. Yet nothing could be further from the truth. True peace is not weakness, it is the deepest form of strength. A calm mind is not a mind that avoids battle, but a mind prepared for it. Meditation develops this calmness, equipping the soul with the steadiness needed to face life's storms without being swept away. While chaos and fear paralyze, peace empowers. The one who has cultivated inner calm is not easily shaken, for their strength flows from a source that is not dependent on circumstances. Calmness gives courage. When the mind is in turmoil, even small challenges appear overwhelming, and decisions are clouded by panic. But when calmness reigns, perspective is restored. Problems shrink to their proper size, and solutions that once seemed hidden begin to surface. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the clarity to act wisely in the presence of it. Meditation strengthens this capacity by anchoring the mind in stability. Instead of reacting impulsively, the calm person responds with measured strength, rooted in conviction rather than emotion. Peace also sharpens discernment. In a restless state, it is difficult to separate truth from deception, urgency from importance. Noise demands immediate reaction, but peace allows for reflection before response. This pause is where wisdom emerges. A calm mind becomes a discerning mind, able to see past appearances and recognize the deeper realities at play. In leadership, relationships, and personal decisions, this discernment is invaluable. It is not born of sheer intellect, but of an inner quiet that allows space for insight to rise. Meditation builds endurance as well. Life is not a sprint, but a journey filled with trials that test perseverance. Without inner calm, fatigue sets in quickly, and frustration becomes unbearable. But peace sustains the spirit, providing the strength to continue when others give up. It acts as a shield, protecting the heart from being consumed by bitterness or despair. The calm person may still feel the weight of hardship, but they carry it with resilience rather than collapse under it. This strength of peace extends beyond the individual. A calm presence changes environments. In families, the one who carries calmness diffuses conflict. In workplaces, the one with steady composure guides others through uncertainty. In communities, those anchored in peace inspire confidence when fear abounds. Calmness is contagious. It spreads stability to others because it is rooted in something deeper than external conditions. Ultimately, peace as strength is the gift of meditation. By training the mind to rest, reflect, and anchor in higher truths, meditation equips a person to walk through life not as a victim of chaos, but as a bearer of calm authority. It transforms peace from a fleeting feeling into a settled state, an inner fortress from which courage, discernment, and endurance flow. Calmness, then, is not weakness at all, it is the strongest ground upon which a life can stand. Living from a place of calm is not simply about practicing moments of meditation, but about allowing meditation to transform the way life is lived daily. Many treat calmness as a temporary state, something to reach for only when overwhelmed. But true meditation is not meant to be compartmentalized, it is meant to become a foundation that shapes every thought, word, and action. To live from a place of calm is to carry the fruits of meditation into every encounter, to let inner stillness govern the way one moves through the chaos of the world. Calmness becomes not a retreat, but a way of being. When meditation is consistent, calmness seeps into the ordinary rhythms of life. Decisions are no longer driven by panic, but by clarity. Conversations are marked not by reaction, but by patience. Challenges are approached with stability rather than fear. This calmness is not fragile. It does not disappear when confronted with stress, but endures because it has been cultivated in stillness. Living from this place allows one to face uncertainty without losing balance. It creates space between stimulus and response, space in which wisdom can act instead of impulse. This way of living changes relationships profoundly. A person rooted in calm becomes a stabilizing presence for others. In a world where tension easily escalates, calmness diffuses conflict. Where anxiety spreads like wildfire, Calmness brings assurance. Friends, family, and colleagues begin to feel the difference, often without being able to articulate it. They sense the steadiness and are drawn to it because calmness carries a quiet authority that does not need to prove itself. Living from calm is therefore not only personal strength but also a gift to others, modeling what it means to walk through life with inner balance. Living from calm also reshapes how challenges are perceived. Instead of seeing obstacles as threats, the calm mind views them as opportunities for growth. Problems become teachers rather than enemies, and trials become training grounds rather than prisons. This shift in perspective is only possible because calmness removes the distortion of fear and restores clarity. Meditation plants this perspective so deeply that even in moments of difficulty, the heart can hold steady, confident that chaos is temporary, but peace can endure. Ultimately, living from a place of calm is about integration. It is about no longer separating the inner life from the outer life, but letting the inner transformation guide outward expression. Calmness becomes a posture, a way of standing in the world regardless of what storms rage around. It means carrying silence within, even in noisy environments, carrying peace within, even in conflict, carrying assurance within, even in uncertainty. Meditation opens the door, but it is the choice to live from that calm that allows life to be shaped by it daily. To live this way is to walk with clarity, grace, and strength, becoming not just a seeker of peace, but a bearer of it wherever life leads.